This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Well, this is not my normal kind of interview, but I'm delighted to be joined by probably the most famous man in arm wrestling, Devon Larratt. How are you, sir?
It's great to be here. I'm a baby stepping into your guys' world, and I'm really happy to be here.
Okay. Listen, we've heard of some kind of really random matchups over the years. It was a random matchup when Thor went in with a professional boxer kind of first time round, but now he's had another fight against a well-known boxer from the UK since then. But now this is even more random because boxing really isn't your background, and arm wrestling, amongst other things that we'll come on to, is. So why do you want to step in the ring and get punched in the face? Or hopefully not punched in the face, in your opinion?
Yeah, right? Half the time, I think I'm totally crazy. I think what happened was, so I'm a loose fan of boxing. Like, I definitely have been watching boxing since I was a kid. I watch all the greats. I don't watch everything. I watch kind of the tip of the iceberg with boxing. But I know strongman really well because arm wrestling and strongman, we share a lot of the same events. I'm a huge fan of Thor and Eddie Hall. To me, they're like superheroes. And when I found out that they were boxing, I got so hyped. I was like, this is going to be incredible. Like, to see these guys who are like the toppers of their sports step in and duke it out in a way that they're both not really familiar with. I was so excited. I was going to go to the event. I was going to be like right in the front row seats. And then, oh, damn it. Just a second. Let me fix that.
You're good.
When I found out that the event got canceled, I was like, no, this can't be happening. This event can't be canceled. So, I mean, I know the guys from Core Sports quite well because they also do arm wrestling promotion. And I was like, I'm sure that there were hundreds of guys in the strength arena that probably threw their hat in. And I was one of them. I'm like, I'll do it. Like, I just don't want to see this thing die, really. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what particular, I think I was looking at it as an opportunity to kind of reset because I have been so focused, like so specialized on the sport of arm wrestling for probably like 25 at least years. So I thought, I don't have a high level defense coming up anytime soon. It might be really nice for me to kind of just take a step back and become an amateur in another field again and kind of have a fresh set of eyes. And hopefully I don't get too knocked out, but it's been really healthy for me. Like, as an arm wrestler, you require a certain number of skill sets. And as a boxer, it's totally different. And it's definitely making me healthier. Like, we don't need cardio. Like, there's basically a zero cardio requirement. And my cardio used to be good. And I feel like, I'm sweating every day. I'm running every day. Well, almost every day. So, yeah.
When, like, I'm assuming this is like this when everyone was at school, not just specific here, but when we was kids at school, that was a thing that we used to do at school, arm wrestling. It was like, across the dinner table, and at school you used to do it, but it was a thing at school. Like, I'm 40 years old, so I'm talking like 25 years ago it was a thing. So at what point in your head do you realize that, obviously we'll talk about your time in the special forces, but at what point does that kind of, I'm not saying it developed from you, but I'm just saying,
yeah,
for kids, that was a thing to do, arm wrestling, right? So at what point do you kind of then take that to the next step where you actually want to compete in it?
Right. So I was just like you. I was that kid arm wrestling on high school desks. I was the same guy. I thought it was super cool. Every chance that we started doing it, I was right in there, and I wasn't the best and I wasn't the worst. I was somewhere kind of in the middle with all my guys. And, but I kept on kind of growing. Like, by the time I was done high school, among all the kind of, people, I was pretty good by the end of high school. But this is with people who don't do it professionally. when I was done high school, I went out west and I started to work in the oil field. And it just so happened, so everybody out there was arm wrestling, same as in high school. The level is about still high school on the oil field. And just so happened that my immediate supervisor was a professional arm wrestler. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a thing. He's like, yeah. He's like, I go to tournaments all over the world. And the dude was so impressive. He was like 165 pounds, and he was just, I couldn't do anything with him, nothing. And as soon as I touched his hand, it was different. It was a lot different than what I was used to. And I was so intrigued by it that I kind of followed him around for a couple of years. At that time, so that was back in the 90s, arm wrestling was even more underground than it is now. But like nobody knew about it. It was like, here's a flyer, see you in this bar in like a month. Yeah, so that's how I got into it. I got into it after high school, kind of professionally. And then shortly after that, the internet woke up and our communication stepped up. And now there's all sorts of ways to get involved with the sport now.
It is incredible, because I always think to myself, that is something like that is in most people as men. Do you know what I mean? Not specifically to females, but to men, it was kind of rather than have a fight in the playground or whatever, that was kind of a friendly way of seeing who had the bigger balls back then. That's kind of universal around the world. It's not specifically to Canada or wherever, or the UK. But so now kind of you're trying your hand in the sport of boxing. Is this a one-off? Is this something that could continue? How are you looking at it at the moment?
Well, so I actually was probably, my base is probably more as a fighter than it is actually as an arm wrestler. Like when I was a kid, I did a ton of judo. I did judo from the time I was probably around in grade 3 or grade 4, right up until about midway through high school. I wanted to go to the Olympics. Never happened. It kind of all fell apart kind of towards the end of high school, and when I started to have to realize that I had to get a job and feed myself and all this stuff. But I always loved fighting. I think it's one of the reasons why I joined the Army. But when I was in the Army, I kind of did a little bit of unarmed combat, a little bit more than just most guys. Not that, we do a ton of it in the military, but I tried to keep up on it for a few years till about 2005 or so. And at that point, I kind of cut it, and I really started to specialize probably as far as you can in arm wrestling. But when I retired from the military in 2016, all the things that I kind of took for granted, just the base ability of being able to fight, being able to run, those slipped away from me to a point where, probably a couple months ago, I was, I could barely run around the block, man. Like, so once I started this, I was like, geez, I can never, ever let my body slip like this. I have to at least maintain a base ability to run, to swim, to fight. Otherwise, what good am I? What good am I if it really becomes a matter of life and death? So I think from this point forward, I will, I'm not going to stop arm wrestling, but I will re-enter the fight realm a little bit, like just get myself to a point where I'm comfortable with myself.
So you've been training up at TriStar with Faris and the guys there. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh, it's incredible, man. Like, what a great lifestyle. Yeah, they've been fantastic. It's not a lot of time. Today would have been 3 weeks. Okay, so I was under their tutelage for probably like 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And most of what we did was conditioning and kind of lower intensity sparring. Okay, so like a lot of the guys are really good there. Like TriStar Gym they've got some real studs in that building. And, you know, every time I was in with them, I realized that they could have teed off and really hurt me, a lot of them, but they were really good. We kept it kind of a lower percentage, just to kind of get me familiar with the cardio requirements, just the base reaction of fighting again. But yeah, it was mostly conditioning, sparring, a little bit of boxing drills, but mostly for me, it's conditioning, man. I got to kickstart this engine in a hurry.
So I had a little look online the other day. I think it was last week. I couldn't find any actual footage of you training boxing.
Right.
Training. Is there
Yeah, you don't want to see it.
There's nothing online?
There's nothing. There's nothing. No, I didn't know the policy. Like, I didn't want to bring my camera into TriStar and start filming. Like, I didn't know what their policies were. And at the other hand, like, I don't know that me sharing it really that much is a good idea for anybody. Like, I'll tell you, there's right now, I'm just, every day I'm like, oh, I feel a little bit better. I'm still at the point where 3 minutes, to stand for 3 minutes and work hard for 3 minutes, is an incredible challenge. So when I do 6, by the end of 6, oh, I'm a happy guy if I'm still standing.
I saw a quote from an interview that you gave. I'm not sure where the interview was, but there was a quote saying that you were willing to die in the ring, that you made.
Well, that's where I want to get to. You know, I just know that, you know, for any kind of performance in any field, like, you have to be willing to go all the way. You got to be, whether it's arm wrestling, whether it's boxing, whatever it is, you have to commit hard to what you're doing. And that's been a place where I've mentally tried to get to in a lot of things that I've done. And I find when I can get there, I'll at least, win or lose, I'll have my best performance.
So this fight, obviously in Dubai, next week, on the 18th, on Core Sports, against Thor. And from what you've seen of Thor in his 2 fights he had with Stephen Ward and Simon Vallily, again, 2 well-known boxers from the UK and Ireland. Have you been impressed with what you've seen? Have you been impressed with kind of his new physique as a boxer?
When it comes to his physique, yeah, super impressive. The changes that he's made, and I really actually think he's just beginning. You know, Thor being as tall as he is, with the strength background that he has, you know, his slow transformation into a boxer, it's incredible to watch. It's like you got this giant piece of clay that's slowly now being worked into this fighting machine. It's great to see. Now, I know that if you're up against a pro, like, I've seen a lot of people say things about Thor, like, oh, he moves slow, or any kind of number of negative things. But I understand that the guys that he's standing with are, you know, they're professional boxers. So, of course, they're going to make him look, you know, relative to his skill level. But you definitely saw a big improvement between his first fight and his second fight. There was times in his second fight where, you know, he showed glimpses that, yeah, he's moving well, he's looking good. And even since then, like, you see clips from his training footage, and you can see that he continues to improve, looks like he's moving better. There's an evolution, which it's fascinating to watch.
It is interesting, and obviously this fight date was penciled in, as you said, for the fight with Eddie Hall, while obviously Eddie Hall's recovering from his bicep injury. We see what happens next week. But before I let you go, I want you to educate me about the Devon Larratt troll army.
Yeah. Well,
That.
yeah. Yeah. So arm wrestling is, I mean, we are a, we are a growing sport, and arm wrestling continues to have more light shed upon it. But we kind of hit, I don't know whether you want to call it a milestone, probably 6 months ago or something like that, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, where for some reason birth was given to this legion of fans, which are just this seems like a never-ending meme army of mixtures of characters in the sports of arm wrestling. And these guys really, like, arm wrestling fans really follow it closely, and it seems like they know the culture really, really well now. But yeah, there's hundreds of these trolls that they have a massive online presence. It's fun just to read the comments on arm wrestling YouTube channels now. Like yeah, very opinionated bunch. Hey, you guys got the same thing in fighting, don't you? I heard that a lot of this comes from fighting. Like, you guys got all sorts of trolls, right?
Yeah, but the sense of the word trolls doesn't really come. It's more like in a negative way, where there are a selection of like boxing fans that are more opinionated than others, that follow the sport more closely and are kind of more critical of, which is their entitlement. Like I said, if you're a fan of any sport, I suppose to a certain degree, it's just when it borders along being critical and being abusive, that's where kind of, you know.
Yeah, that's out of control in arm wrestling. Completely out of control. We have full on anonymous troll legions who just have a fake online persona, but they have history. It's not like these guys are one of, like, pop off here, pop. These guys are posting every single day, and they've developed like an online persona. Like, you know who these guys are, but you have no idea who they are in real life.
The more you actually talk about that, there is a bit of a similarity in boxing, and it's only really if you follow the sport kind of day to day, almost hour to hour, that you're aware of, because there are certain accounts on Instagram, more specifically on boxing Twitter, that there's no name really. There's like an anonymous name, there's an anonymous picture, but
Yeah.
these accounts have been like running for years with like,
Right.
you know, their opinions, and I suppose that's kind of the same thing. It's a world of social media, so
It's the world we live in.
absolutely. Yeah. Did I read correctly that one of the first people you arm wrestled was your grandmother?
That's who started me off. Yeah, my grandmother. I started arm wrestling with my grandmother when I was probably around 5 years old. Yeah, she used to come over, and that was my reward for good work done, is I got to arm wrestle with her. She, yeah, I was one of those kids that was like super kind of aggressive. I always wanted to fight and rough around, and me arm wrestling with my grandmother was such a gift to me. I was like, I loved it. Because I could go as hard as I wanted on her, and she actually was pretty good. And, you know, she would just hold me till I got tired, and which was, you know, it's good for a kid. It's good for a kid to get to arm wrestle with their grandmother.
Yeah, that's quite a line in just itself. I used to arm wrestle my grandmother. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
You did, so you're used to it. But yeah, just to hear that in general, I'm trying to picture me having.
Yeah. Well, you got to picture yourself like 5. It'll work when you're like 5. Actually, I don't think I beat my grandmother. I don't think I ever beat my grandmother, because I think even at like 11 or 12, she could still beat me. And then we stopped. I stopped arm wrestling her once I kind of, you know, got older, but I don't think I ever beat her.
Devon, just finally, you said you're kind of a loose fan, or what we'd say a casual fan here of boxing, but who are some of the kind of fighters? I'm assuming they're heavyweights, the ones that you do like to watch. Am I wrong in saying that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, heavyweights always kind of get the most attention probably in all sports, but since the last couple weeks, I've been watching a little bit more than usual, but I'd say that the guy who probably made the biggest impact on me was Mike Tyson. I mean, I feel like, and it wasn't like his aura was just so astounding when he was the best. I mean, it was just what a frightening character. Yeah, probably Tyson for me was like the first guy I think of when I think of boxing is Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, now, I mean, I watch Canelo. That guy is incredible. I mean, wow. But I've watched a little bit more bits and pieces. I mean, I've seen bits more on Foreman. Watched some good fights between a guy showed me a great fight. Guy got robbed. Evander Holyfield versus that great big giant guy. That was a crazy fight. Yeah, boxing's fantastic. What a great sport. And now that I'm just starting to dip my feet into it, I realize how it's even more impressive to me now that I'm kind of realizing how hard it is.
What about the heavyweights from the UK? Tyson Fury and
oh yeah, of course. Tyson Fury is a master. I mean, that guy is so skilled. You know, the way he moves, so loose. Everything seems to come from his feet and his hips, and it's beautiful to watch. Beautiful to watch. Yeah, he's a master. Yeah.
Well, Devon, appreciate your time talking to IFL TV. I will be in Dubai myself next week for the event, so
Good.
I'm sure it'll be quite interesting. Yeah, to have a sit down with you and Thor. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in Dubai next week. Yeah, it should be an interesting week.
Thanks, KUGAN. I appreciate everything you do.
No problem. KUGAN CASSIUS here with Devon Larratt for IFL TV, and like I said, check out footage of all the post-fight, pre-fight stuff from next week, and obviously the fight is live on Core Sports. Devon, God bless you, and we will catch up next week.
Thanks, brother.